Does this look like somebody who's drunk or drugged? What do you see?
Well, I don't really know the difference just in terms of stumbling, but he is out of his head. There is just no question when you watch this. He is wandering aimlessly after midnight. He goes back and forth in areas. He runs at times. But there's one point, Ashleigh, where he leans against a wall and he seems to fall asleep for 2 minutes, because we have the surveillance video, and for 2 minutes he's leaning against this wall, and it's almost as if he just passed out. And then somebody comes by, and it seems like that guy wakes him up, and they exchange words, and to me, we can only see the guy he exchanged words with, but it looked kind of angry. But right after that is when he went back to the scene and apparently attacked this truck driver, Perry Toll.
Do we know if the police know who that passerby was and if they've interviewed that witness?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not even sure how relevant that witness is going to be, because really this is about what happened at the scene, and they seem confident enough that they made this arrest almost immediately. I mean, they very quickly said Mark Sanchez was the aggressor.
And on these videos, we don't see the incident itself, which makes me think, because the police were so quick, Harvey, they know when they know. And they're careful if it's Mark Sanchez and it's going to destroy his world to make that arrest and be that, you know, solid in their convictions. They've got other video. Do you know if they have other video? Do you know if other video exists?
My understanding is there are 3 surveillance videos, and they are from different angles. And when you watch all 3 of them, you can capture what happened. And I am told, at least in one, and again, I don't have this to a point where I can absolutely say this is true, but I have spoken to somebody. I believe in one there might be audio as well.
Audio?
Possibly. I mean, that's what I'm told.
Wow.
But I'm not, I want to make that clear. I have not heard this, so this is secondhand, but yes.
That would make such a big difference, because then you can hear if Mr. Toll is pleading with this guy, please, no, you know, and then you know if it's stand your ground, and so much more legally can be proven with the audio if there is audio.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I want to go back in time a little bit to the pub, because there's this pub, and I know that anything that you learn from people in the pub, if he was there, would be prior to, but it would at least help to know state of mind, whether he was overserved, all sorts of other things. Do you have any idea whether there's, you know, whether police have interviewed in the pub? Do you know about any pub folks who've been able to shed some light on this?
I just know that especially when you look at the surveillance video, he was familiar with this pub. When he was walking around, apparently broadcasters stay at this particular hotel, and they are all familiar with it, and he's been there before. So he knew this pub. I mean, there was a reason after he was stabbed, he made a beeline. In fact, you even see in the video, he is running at one point. After he gets stabbed, you would think he'd hobble, but at a point he was just running and beelined it for the pub and then went inside. So he is familiar with it. In terms of what he did that night, I can't tell you, but what I can say is when you watch this video, like you said, I mean, I don't know what he was drinking or what he had taken, but it was something.
Yeah, and do you know about potential witnesses in the pub, if the police have been able to speak with them and find out any more intelligence, what he said when he came into the pub, maybe if he'd been in the pub prior to, what he was like?
You know, Ashleigh, what I'm being told is the surveillance video itself tells the story. So, you know, what he was doing before, how much he was drinking, I'm not sure how much that really even matters, because the entire incident is captured on those surveillance videos.
Yeah, you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking like you. As a defense attorney, I would say, no, you know, Mr. Sanchez wasn't belligerent at all, but suddenly if you've got these pub staff who say we had to cut him off, he was trying to pick fights with all of us, it would make a different picture.
Again, secondhand, But what I'm told is this surveillance video leaves little question about belligerence.
Wow. So the other question is there are two legal avenues at play here because a civil suit has already been filed. Like, holy smokes, that was lightning fast. But I get it. I get it, right? So legally, put on your defense attorney hat. What do you do with what we think the police have on Mark Sanchez right now?
Well, look, I mean, it does kind of come down to a case if the surveillance video is as clear as what I'm being told, and, you know, again, how the cops reacted to it. It's not a great defense to say, who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? And so then what do? And, you know, one of the things that defense lawyers often do, as you know, in cases like this, is they immediately put their client in rehab. And and again, I'm not saying what's going to happen to Mark Sanchez, but I just have seen so many of these cases that if this was alcohol fueled or whatever, that you put somebody in rehab and show they want to get better and that they were sick. And, you know, if he doesn't have a record, then it does open the door to making some kind of a deal. Because right now, you remember, he's facing a felony charge of battery with severe injury, you know, in addition to the 3 misdemeanors, and they could add to that. So, you know, if he could strike some kind of a deal, you know, you could almost call that a win for Sanchez, depending, especially if they can get the felony dismissed.
Well,
I don't know that's going to happen. It was really brutal.
I mean, the extraordinary injury that Mr. Toll suffered and the long-lasting effect of it dictates a lot of times the level of the charge, right? And whether there will be additional charges afterward.
And you know what, Ashleigh? It's really interesting because this shouldn't matter, but the reality is the guy just becomes an American citizen. He's a hardworking guy. He shows up to his job. He's doing the right thing. His kid's about to get married. And all of it just blows up because of Mark Sanchez. And, you know, the backstory is not supposed to be particularly relevant when it comes to a victim.
Yeah.
But it's hard for prosecutors to ignore who you're looking at. And so I think that makes it harder on Mark Sanchez.
Well, not only that, but the story that he's taken this job instead of following his dream to play guitar because he's looking after his sister's, you know, his wife's sister who was shot in the head. I mean, all of it is so tragic to think that this is now, you know, his life. I wanted to ask you, though, if Mark Sanchez legally on the criminal side is able to strike a deal. Don't know if prosecutors will offer one. Don't know. But if he's able to strike a deal, how does that play into a civil settlement or award? Because if you're going to admit full on in a criminal case, okay, I did this and I'm guilty of it and I'm sorry. Whoa, all that is ripe for the pickings for the civil effort, right?
Well, it depends on what he pleads to, right? If he pleads guilty, yes. If he pleads no contest, you know, there are ways of pleading where it can't be used in a civil case. But I go back to the surveillance video, that if the surveillance video is as clear as what I'm being told and what the cops seem to believe, that surveillance video is going to be devastating in a civil case where the standard of proof is way lower than it is in a criminal case. And in this case, the police felt it was so clear in a case that would require guilt beyond a reasonable doubt that they immediately drew their conclusion. So if it's that clear criminally, you would think it's even clearer civilly.
Has he called his last NFL game?
I don't know. You know,
Really?
I got to tell you, Ashleigh, we are coming up on TMZ's 20th anniversary, and I have seen so many cases where you take a snapshot of somebody, you know, at their worst time, and you assume it's over. It's never going to happen again. I will give you Chris Brown, where everybody thought over and out, and Chris Brown is now filling venues. You look at Michael Vick, where people said he's done, and he goes back to playing football. So, you know, sometimes as clear as it seems in the moment, it's just not the way it ends up in reality. So I don't know.
My thanks to Harvey Levin and the team at TMZ. We'll continue to report on this story as we learn more details, and you know we will very soon.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.